Well, good morning, fellas, once again, and welcome back. And like we spoke last week, John White, who's been a longstanding member of our group, is going to share a bit of his story. Hard to do that in a half an hour or so, but John, take it away.
All right. So I feel like I've lived a couple lives already, but I've come to believe, and I like to say, life is short, life is fragile, and life is a journey.
Huh.
I see myself on a journey, a pilgrimage. I see, or I think of myself as being part monk, part mystic. For years, I've been unlearning things, and lately trying to let go more and more and let God. Trying to see life and my faith from his perspective. So I grew up outside of Philadelphia. I was born shortly after the war. That's World War II. In a good, safe, secure home. My mom was Pennsylvania Dutch, and my dad was Irish Catholic. I have an older brother and a younger sister. I love sports, and I became a high achiever. The summer of my junior year in high school, I attended a Young Life camp in Colorado, and I heard there Jesus say that he had come that we could have life and have it abundantly. My religious faith became personal and alive. I had some college options, and I decided to go to a small Christian school in Illinois to make or break my Christian faith. And like many of you, I experienced the draft lottery. And after 4 years of ROTC, I failed my physical a month before I was to be commissioned a second lieutenant. So no Vietnam, and now what? So I went to the south side of Chicago, and I worked with Young Life. I taught high school part-time to help support myself. In the late 60s and early 70s, Young Life had 9 national camps and 28 highway coaches. Now they're like Greyhound buses. So I became a bus driver too. And we would go 50,000 miles in 10 weeks during the summer. One year I skied 60 days in Colorado.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
So yeah, I still can't believe that.
That's amazing.
So I did the buses and Young Life in the South Side there 5+ years. I drove in every state in the continental United States, but it was more than just driving. On the way out to camp and then on the way back, we would have many, many meaningful conversations. I met my wife on one of these adventures, and we lived in Chicago for 18 months. Then we had another decision to make. We both had jobs in Colorado, and should we move to Frisco or move back to Philadelphia and be young, responsible adults? So both of us were from that area, and so we decided to move home. So back to Pennsylvania we went. Late in the 70s, besides working with Young Life, we led a high school Sunday school class. We kind of ran it like Young Life Club. Kids would sit on the floor, and it became very popular. I would often have them repeat, the most important thing is that the most important thing remain the most important thing. And then I would ask them, so what is the most important thing? And Donna, my wife, would say to me, why do you always say, what do you think? Why don't you ever say, what do you feel? And so iron sharpens iron, as you were saying, Mike. In the 80s, we were still very involved with Young Life. Bob Seal was our area director. He was in his 20s then. I still see him on a somewhat regular basis. Some of you know him. He was on Young Life staff here in Fort Collins for a number of years as well. I started a men's coffee or breakfast. This is in the 80s with another guy. And now with COVID and Zoom, I get to join them again. And
Cool.
so I used to always start our time together by saying, so how's your journey going? And so we had 3 kids. Chad, Ryan, and Jenna were born in the 80s. At the time I was working with Xerox. They were probably my best and happiest work years, although I was always happy with whoever I worked for. It was kind of like sports. You had to play hard. Winning was important, and trips and rewards were abundant in those days. Somewhere in there, I also started a youth lacrosse program. In 1996, I was 48. I wondered why I was tired all the time. And in the middle of the afternoon, I would be drinking coffee just so I could get home and get through the day. My wife chased me to the doctor and had a blood test, and they said, "Oh, we must have mixed your blood work up. Do it again." And no, so my sed rate was up, my hemoglobin was low. So I got to go see a blood doctor, a hematologist. They didn't tell me he was an oncologist too. So I got diagnosed with cancer and Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia. I'm sure you've never heard of it. It's very similar to the one Jack got diagnosed with. He got diagnosed with CLL. They're cousins. But anyway, back then they said, "Oh, you got 5 years." And at the time, my daughter Jenna, she was 10. So if I had to say something, I would always tell the people at work or others I had a blood disorder, which was true. It was and is a blood disorder, but cancer was and is a very bad word. So fast forward to February of 2017, I lost my job. I knew it was coming. Being fired is always a fun thing. I still wanted to work, so I cleaned off the resume and began that uphill drudge. My wife, Donna, had headed off to Colorado, something she did often, to see the grandkids, and daughter Jenna and son Chad was out here at the time. And to ski with her best friend from high school. It was their annual outing at Breckenridge. And then on March 1st, I got one of those middle of the night phone calls that you had always feared of getting. Chad, the oldest, who lived in Denver and lives in Denver, was calling. It was 2 a.m. Philadelphia time. I was in a deep sleep and the phone vibrating. I finally wake up and only to hear my other son, Ryan, who lived about a mile away, come in the back door because I wasn't waking up. And Chad says, "Don has been air evacuated from Summit County to St. Anthony's Level 1 Trauma Center in Denver." And Chad said, "Mom has a brain aneurysm." And I was trying to wake up. What in the world is a brain aneurysm? Is this serious? Now what? So Donna had been saying for the previous 2 months, Jesus is coming. We need to be ready. The kids need to be ready. And that was kind of out of sorts for her to say something like that. But anyway, within a couple hours, I was in the air and I was able to get the last seat on a flight. It was like 5 a.m. Spent the flight trying to utilize the Wi-Fi to connect with everybody. I arrived at the hospital in Denver by 9 a.m. and she was in a medically induced coma. The doctors offered some hope, but what a week it would be. You don't realize what you have till you don't have it. So within 2 weeks, we had a memorial service in Buena Vista. And then at the end of the month, we had another service in Pennsylvania. And now what? So I sold the house, the only one we ever lived in, 40 plus years, and then emptied the house, said goodbye to family, longtime neighbors and many friends, and relocated to Fort Collins in the early summer of 2017. Life continues to be fragile and short. Where did the time go? I've had many adventures, fell in love, had 3 kids, found joy, fulfillment, peace, success in following and serving Jesus. My Donna died early, but the journey continues. Life is different, but God is good. Life is good. So that's it in 10 minutes, Mike.
Yeah. Well, that again, amazing story, and we just can't drop that. And let's ask John some questions. First question I have is, I mean, it's just to rewind a bit to your college days. As I recall, you went to Wheaton College and played football for Wheaton. Did you also play lacrosse? Because you mentioned you were working with youth and lacrosse. So talk just a little bit about that.
I don't know how many of you know what lacrosse is. So back in that day, even in Pennsylvania, it was an early in high school. So I played baseball, and then my brother says, "You gotta play lacrosse," and so I played lacrosse, much to my dad's chagrin. They had kind of raised me to play with professional. Anyway, that's in the baseball's another story. But so we used to play with wooden sticks, and it was like an old Indian game. It was rough and tough. And so I played in high school and was very successful. I actually had scholarship offers my junior year in high school, before the football thing even kicked in. And so I was going to go to the Naval Academy or Maryland. And anyway, when I decided to go to Wheaton, everybody was like, "What? What do you want to go to that small school, that little Christian school?" And they didn't have lacrosse. But to answer your question, we started a lacrosse club, and my junior year, senior year, and it's one of those things that's still going.
Really? At Wheaton College?
My son graduated from Wheaton, and he played lacrosse for Wheaton.
That's amazing.
Interesting.
How about that?
A program that John started. That is amazing.
Yeah, right.
What year was that, Dick?
Oh my gosh, he's 52 now,
That
so
is amazing.
quite a few years ago.
Wow, that connection is amazing. That's cool. Well, you guys are not jumping in there, so I'm going to ask John a second question, but I really would like, no, it's not what I want, but feel free to ask questions. John, you're in a process like all of us of change, of transformation. And you alluded early on where your introductory comments about this change. And what does that mean to you? Can you go a little bit more about what that means?
Well, I guess you can make New Year's resolutions and decide what kind of changes you want to see in your life, right? Or you can just kind of go through life and play the cards you're dealt, right? And so as Richard Rohr would say, as we get in I would call where I am kind of in the fourth quarter, but in the home stretch, things that used to be important aren't so important anymore. And when you start clearing the deck, I'm just kind of looking around here, who's working and who's retired. And but when you start clearing the deck of things that occupy your life, whether it be taking care of a house or pets or jobs or anyway, what's left when you start heading home, so to speak. And so you realize it's relationships, right? It's friends, family. They're the things that are most important. And in that relationship with God, in terms of, I've always had this make or break thing my whole life. And so today, disruption's a big thing. And I guess, where does that leave us in our spiritual journeys? Is it just church? Is it, what is it? And so I've had lots of time, I guess, just to feed on that and recall what's really, really important.
Thank you.
I have a question, John. What year did you say your wife Donna passed away?
2017.
So very recently, and you moved out here pretty quickly thereafter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they say never make any big decisions like after that. And so anyway, I broke all the rules.
Whoever they are.
Good they are, yeah.
John, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much.
Are you still involved with Young Life?
On the outskirts, yes. So the cancer thing really changed my life. So I was very cautious about getting sick, and because my immune system doesn't work very well. So if I get pneumonia, which is similar to the COVID thing. So anyway, make a long story short, I'm not near as involved as I used to be, but I am involved with the leadership and the different people. And we go back to Frontier Ranch in Buena Vista a lot, and Trail West back there. I didn't say much of the Trail West story. My wife worked at Trail West, which is the adult facility in Buena Vista, for 25 plus years. And so we were very, very involved over the years. But yeah. So my kids grew up thinking they grew up in Colorado. They spent the summers out here. And they're all out here now.
Good. Is that the main reason you moved to Colorado?
So my daughter went to CSU, and I have 2 grandkids here in Fort Collins. So that just, and like I said, I have a driver's license from '73, and so we got a long history here. So this was always kind of our home. Pennsylvania is very pretty, but and like I said, I've been in every state, and I used to say a place is a place, and it is after you settle in. But boy, I don't know if you probably take for granted living here, but if I had to pick a place in the United States, this is it.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
You still seeking out a cheesesteak or anything like that?
Hey, the best of Philly, right? Taste of Philly. that works.
Are you feeling pretty? How has COVID restrained you now from what you wanted to do in these days, like volunteering and stuff like that?
I'm pretty locked down. So I do a treatment every 3 weeks, and at the cancer center. So it's not chemo. It's a maintenance kind of thing for my immune system, but it kind of knocks me off for a week. I'm out of sorts for a week, and not bad. I couldn't begin to complain about it. But anyway, so I'm pretty locked down. I keep my little bubble of circle of who I see.
I thought you were out of sorts all the time anyway.
Hey, listen, I don't talk that way about you.
So John, tell us how you found the Moot Men. How did that
Yeah.
occur?
So so my daughter's best friend in high school moved to Colorado, got married to a guy named Jake Smeester. Now, I don't know if you know the name Smeester.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I do.
Yeah.
So
Kurt?
Jake said, "Oh, you need to meet this guy. He's kind of like you." And so anyway, he set up a Jake's dad, whose name just ran out of my brain.
Kurt.
Kurt,
Yeah,
Kurt,
Kurt.
Kurt Marcia, I think. Yeah.
Set out a lunch meeting with Mike, and then Mike said, "Oh, why don't you come?" And I said, "That's pretty early." And so anyway, so I came, and here I am. So I've really enjoyed being with you guys.
Yeah,
We enjoy
so glad
having
to
you.
have you too.
Appreciate you.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, been a really an enjoyable friendship with John. Just really have enjoyed. And we are a lot alike, especially our haircuts.
We go to the same barber, huh? You, Vince, and I, and Bill.
Yeah, I got to turn off this top light. It keeps reflecting off the top of my head.
Well, you can wear a hat if you want.
That's what I do.
Well, John, thank you so much for, you gave us a great amount in, this short time together. We feel like we've gotten to know you a little bit more, and there's so much more to your story. So thank you for sharing that with us today. It was
You're
great.
very welcome. Like I said, last week, I much prefer hearing somebody else's stories. So,
I know that.
so now I can.
All righty. Thank you, John.
Uh-huh.
Gonna stop the recording, I think, if I can remember how to do this, guys. There it is.